section, we're going to look at the 4 levels of change, and specifically the 4 levels of change that are required to ask for, demand more profits, and to be able to provide your prospect with a new opportunity as opposed to an improvement. So when we look at it through a pyramid, the 4 levels of change, before we get to level 1, I want to talk about the baseline, what everyone's doing, conventional. And so we need to move up the pyramid to provide more value. And the conventional method is exactly what 80% of the market's doing. They are buying their products and services from their cheapest source possible. They are hiring anyone that walks in the door. They have very little, if any, training to their employees. They have no uniforms, no standard operating procedures, no processes. They are just a hard-working individual that has created a company, and they're running around just trying to make a profit, make ends meet, be resourceful with their products and services that they're using, and they're waiting to get paid and to deliver that service. And they like to use products that smell good, right? They like to use bleach or pine or what have you, because that is associated with clean. And a great example of this is last year I did a LinkedIn Live where I walked into a doctor's office, and you had to take the elevator up to go up to the doctor's, and so it was just a long hallway. And as you walked in, it was potent of pine. It smelled just like overpowering of pine. And so I stood there and did a live video for LinkedIn talking about how the smell of pine was bugging me, and how people associate it with being clean, but it's not. And just as I finished that video, in walked someone into the building. And as I was standing there, she looked at me and said, "Oh boy, do I wish my house smelled like this." And that's the struggle that we are in the cleaning industry. We're in the struggle that people associate clean with appearance and smell and their 5 senses. And what we need to do is start to recognize that cleaning for health is much more important than cleaning for appearance. Yes, it needs to look good. But what are we cleaning with? What are we removing? Is the place actually sanitized? And if COVID-19 taught us anything, it taught us the importance of getting rid of the unseen, of microorganisms, or of cleaning for health. So that's what conventional is. The majority of your competitors this is the game they're playing. And again, if you're going to play that game, then you're playing a market share strategy, and you have low investment, and the customer has a low investment, and that's the market share you're going to get. You're going to try to get market share through being the low cost provider. But as we move up the 4 levels of change, level 1, we start making a change. You start making a change in the way you sell, on your products that you sell, or in the products that you use if you're in services, cleaning services. And that is, we start with chemistry. Now, why do we start with chemistry? Well, the reason we start with chemistry, meaning the chemicals that you use, is because so many products have negative effects on human health. And products are usually one of the easiest things to change, because if you walk into a facility or you're cleaning a facility, many times facilities just use gallon jugs of product, and so you can replace those gallon jugs quite easily. Or they may have a chemical dispenser on the wall, and you can easily change that chemical dispenser. But when you start getting into products like toilet paper dispensers and hand towel and hand soap, now you're talking about sometimes hundreds within a building. And so it's not as easy to make that change. So the first level of change, the easiest change that you can make or you can inspire and promote your customer to see differently, is the chemistry that you use. So let me give an example of how using chemistry or changing the products can be your level 1 level of change. So if we look at the pH scale, we understand that there are two sides of an equation, right? We have acids on one side, which is usually your bathroom cleaners, right? And we have alkali on the other side, which is usually your floor strippers. And in the center, right in the center, on the one extreme is bathroom cleaners, heavy-duty bathroom cleaners. On the other extreme is heavy-duty floor strippers. And right in the center is a neutral cleaner. And as we move more towards acids, we start getting more towards, washroom cleaners, cream cleansers, things like this. But we're going from neutral 7 over to acid. On the other end of the spectrum, on the alkalis, we start moving from neutral cleaners to disinfectants to general purpose cleaners, and then finally to heavy duty cleaners. And so what we have is we have these products, right? We have your neutral, your disinfectants, and your cleaners. Now, my point with this is if you take a normal heavy-duty cleaner that many of you are using to clean tabletops, to clean doors, to clean desks, to clean what have you, most of the time those products are in and around about a 13 pH. And when you start changing your chemistry and you start focusing on green or bio-based, plant-based chemicals, they clean just as well, but they're much safer. They're safer for your employees, they're safer for the environment, and they're safer for the patrons in a building. So let's give a quick example. If you use a green heavy-duty cleaner and it's a 10 pH compared to a 13 pH heavy-duty cleaner, we're talking a difference of 1,000, right? Because the pH level goes in levels of 10, right? So 11 is 10 times stronger than 10, 12 is 10 times stronger than 11, and 13 is 10 times stronger than 12. So 10, 11, 12, 13, that is 1,000 times safer going to the green heavy-duty cleaner compared to a conventional heavy-duty cleaner. So that's level 1. We're recognizing that chemistry, we can start to change the game and focus on health and safety of our employees, for our customers, and for the end users by getting into green chemistry, and that is level 1. So start looking at green chemistry for using it or selling it, and explaining to your prospects why. Because prospects will pay for that safety. Prospects will pay to remove that danger. And so that's what we want to look at. Now, level 2, we get into products. Okay, so we move out of just chemicals, which is a product, but we start getting into all of the products within a facility. Remember, we're starting to move up the level of adding value, meaning cleaning for health and safety as opposed to cleaning for appearance only. So the 4 categories are sanitation, paper, equipment, and chemicals. So when we start looking at how we can create value for our customers, how we can create change, then we start looking at the things that we can do as we move up the grid And the level 2 is the products that you use and or sell. So we start looking at sanitation products. Now those are products that are kind of, everyday, more commodity type products. Those are things like floor pads and mops and wringers and brushes and garbage bags. So we can start looking at garbage bags and changing them to 100% post-consumer waste garbage bags as an example. We can start looking at getting rid of mops and wringers and going into microfiber tools. We can start looking at investing higher in floor pads that last longer than floor pads that are use them once and chuck them, because these all have an environmental recycling consumer waste component to them. And so when we start looking at the products that we use and the tools that we use, we start looking how can we reduce the consumption, but also how can we reduce the fatigue as well that goes into that, such as using a mop and wringer compared to a microfiber. So we're looking at the tools or products that you use. So sanitation is one section. The other section is paper. So what paper are you using or promoting to your end users? Are you promoting white virgin paper towels and hand towels and toilet tissues? Or are you promoting post-consumer waste? Are you promoting hand towels that have dials on them, the dispensers, or are you promoting non-touch? Right? All of these things have a component to health and safety, to the environment, to reducing the risk to the planet, to the profitability of the organization, and to the people that are using them. So we'll look at the paper we're using. And the playbook goes into depth on these chemicals and onto these products, the paper. Same with equipment. What type of equipment are you using? The equipment has a huge component to creating change and value in the marketplace. If any of you have ever switched from a conventional old dishwasher at home, as an example, to an energy-smart, energy-saving dishwasher, you very quickly recognize the reduction in your hydro bill because it's using less energy. And so these are things that you want to take a look at as you're moving up the level of value to selling health and safety over appearance. Again, health and safety of people, health and safety of the planet, health and safety of the profitability of the organization that you're cleaning for or that you're selling to. So, is the equipment you're using have HEPA type filtration? Do they have lightweight, low energy, low wattage? Do you have equipment that is less fatiguing on your employees? All of these things contribute to helping your customer or your prospect see a new opportunity as opposed to an improvement. And so these are things you want to take a look at: the amount of water your extractors use, the amount of energy your polishers use, how noisy your vacuums are, the filtration of your vacuums. These are things you want to take a look at because they are reflective on the costs to the end user. So as an example, if you have low wattage vacuums, if you have quiet vacuums, then you could clean during the day. And during the day would reduce the amount of energy they spend at night when they have the lights on when you're cleaning. So there's all these different variables that play into it, and that's what the playbook really looks into as well. And finally, we talked about your chemicals. So we talked about your floor strippers, your bathroom cleaners, your degreasers, your floor finishes. We want to take a look at the chemistry, and because of the negative impact this has on employees, patrons, students, and customers. So, are you using green floor strippers that have zero odor so that they do not have to shut down the building when you're stripping a floor, as an example? All of these things play. There's always a consequence to something that you're using in most circumstances. And so you're looking at these categories of making the change of utilizing and using green chemistry, or selling green chemistry if you're in the supply sector, but that this is part of your go-to-market strategy. This is how you add more value to the marketplace. So these are things to take a look at.